Is the recording also on?
Yes.
Good morning, our viewers. Welcome to the monthly distinguished lecture series of the Council for Strategic Affairs. My name is Dr. Adityanji, and I am the President of Council for Strategic Affairs. And I hope you are able to see my PowerPoint. So this is our logo that is being projected. And today, for sake of record, is Saturday, 25th of April, 2026. It's 10 a.m. Eastern Daytime here in United States Eastern Time Zone, and it is 7:30 p.m. in India, where our distinguished speakers are there. So you saw this flyer when you registered, and I'm just for sake of information putting a map of Myanmar because that will be used as a case study. And of course, our distinguished speaker today is Lieutenant General Shokin Chauhan, who after retirement is kind of based in Pune, India. He's a very, very distinguished person. So actually, I don't need to go over his bio. And the reason I'm going not to do that is because that gives me more time for his lecture and our distinguished respondents' comments. But I will mention only one thing. You need to see this flyer. This is his recent book, The Jihad Technology Complex. And this book is being released by another very senior, what we call thinking general, Lieutenant General Atta Hasnain, who is currently serving as the governor of Bihar. He would be releasing this book on 15th of May. So congratulations, General Shokin Chauhan. I
Thank
think
you.
that introduction will suffice. And then we have a distinguished respondent who will speak after his lecture. And that's a unique feature we are introducing today. Ambassador Rajiv Bhatia, again, very distinguished personality, retired diplomat. He also is author of a book on India-Myanmar relationship. He has served as an ambassador of India to Myanmar. He knows pretty much all the players there, including the NLD leader Aung San Suu Kyi. So this is what our distinguished speaker and distinguished respondents are. A little bit about Council for Strategic Affairs. We impart education in the field of international relations. We foster dialogue, discussion. We generally encourage strategic studies. We condemn terrorism in all its forms worldwide. We promote track to diplomacy and people to people contacts. And of course, we are registered as a 501c3 organization with IRS in the United States. So those of our audience members who are based in US kindly support us financially, donate to us. The link is there on the website. We do have a YouTube channel, so please like, share, and subscribe the YouTube channel. Our programs include a monthly roundtable discussion and a guest lecture as we are having today. We do have a fellowship program in strategic studies. So those are the things we do. And today's topic is conflict economies and their impact on geopolitics. Myanmar will be used as an example of this particular conflict economies and impact on regional geopolitics. Everyone knows that there was a coup in 2021 in Myanmar when the military seized the power after dismissing the civilian government that had won the elections. And just for sake of reference, the military leader finally conducted a kind of managed or sham elections, whatever you may do so, and has been sworn in on April 10th as the president of Myanmar. So that is the story, and I'm not going to go more than that. Just a few housekeeping rules. Kindly stay muted during our distinguished speaker and distinguished respondents' comments. Keep your cell phone on vibration mode. You can ask the questions through chat room. Send your questions to the chat. Don't interrupt the esteemed speaker when they are speaking because that is highly discourteous. Questions have to be very precise. Don't write lengthy monologue in the chat room. And of course, we are recording this program. It's being simultaneously live streamed on our YouTube channel. Without further ado, I am going to invite Lieutenant General Shokin Chauhan to take the platform, and I will invite our admin to make General Chauhan as a co-host so he can share his PowerPoint.
Let me know when he makes me the co-host.
You are.
Okay, let me share this now.
We can see your PowerPoint, General Sir.
Okay. Good evening to you. Always a pleasure to speak on Dr. Adityanji's forum. I've spoken before on Nepal, I've spoken on Pakistan, I've spoken on various other issues. Uh, and I've always found it of great consequence of the level of people who attend and the questions that I've had to answer. Extremely relevant questions, and I'm so happy that you all could attend. So, actually, Dr. Adityanji recently contacted me after my article on the conflict economies in Myanmar, and he said, "Why don't you do this for us?" And I said, "Sure, I'll do that." And we decided on a date, and luckily, after almost 15 days in Singapore, where I'd gone to visit my son, I came back yesterday and in time for today's talk. So, conflict economies in Myanmar and the geopolitics of India's northeast. It it's a broad subject. It includes narcotics, includes insurgencies, includes strategic competition. And this article was actually written post the arrest of an American, Mr. Van Dyke, uh, who was leading a group of 6 Ukrainians and I believe one Slovenian, who had entered India on a tourist passport, on a tourist visa, crossed over from Myanmar into the Chin state of, crossed over from Mizoram into the Chin state of Myanmar, done a 3 week or a 4 week stint with one of the EAOs there. EAO is the armed groups that are there, the armed groups that are ethnic armed groups that exist there, uh, ethnic armed organizations that exist there. They they run their own insurgencies, they run their own problems, they run their own narcotics, they run their own gun running, and they're just involved in just about everything in the garb of actually fighting for their people. And as you know, Myanmar has been in a complex situation from 2021, ever since Aung San Suu Kyi was removed uh, from power and taken and arrested. So after that, fairly large parts of Myanmar have been, are actually free zones, zones where the writ of the Myanmar army, the Tatmadaw, doesn't run. So, as I said, Myanmar's post 2021 political collapse has generated a resilient conflict economy, is what I'm going to talk to you about. Uh, Sustained by, as I said, the ethnic armed organizations, the EAOs, which had actually hosted Van Dyke and those 6 Ukrainian, then one Slovenian. They also are involved in narcotics production. They're involved in narcotics networks and illicit cross-border networks. These are the issues that they are actually involved in. And these dynamics extend beyond Myanmar's borders, embedding themselves within the socio-economic and security fabric of India's Northeast. Now, as you are aware, our Northeast, I had spoken on this forum about our Northeast also. And at that time, I had told you all how our ethnic tribes in the Northeast have actually all migrated from Myanmar. And I had also mentioned to you this, you know, uh, an incident that happened when I was the Director General of the Assam Rifles is when I went to the Chief Minister of Mizoram and I requested him to stop not permit the influx of Chin refugees into Mizoram. He told me, he says, General, we can't do that. The reason is the Chins are my brothers, and if they need help, we are there to provide it for them. And as a result of this particular attitude of the Mizos, you have almost 55,000 to 65,000 Chin refugees in Mizoram. And now the Mizos are finding it difficult. The other thing that is an issue which I'm sure not many of you would know is that the Mizoram airport at Aizawl, a little I think 20 odd kilometers short of Aizawl, is the only airport which does not permit the CISF to operate there. The reason is, as per the Mizo Accord of 1986, the CISF and nobody was permitted to operate in their own airports, and the Mizoram police would be policing the airport. So they, it's not a generalization, but it has been noticed that the inner line permit that they're supposed to check is often not checked by the Mizoram police at the airport. And as a result of this, we have found several inimical elements crossing into Mizoram, getting into Mizoram by air, and then crossing over through one of the areas, open areas, because as you know, the Mizo border too has not been permitted to be fenced. The Chief Minister of Mizoram was quite clear that the Mizo border would not be fenced at all, and has opposed the fencing of the Mizo border. As a result of which, very large parts of the Mizoram border are not fenced. So these dynamics, as I said, extend beyond Myanmar's borders, embedding themselves within the socio-economic and security fabric of India's northeast. By situating Myanmar's conflict economy within a broader geopolitical framework, uh, I here want to bring in China and its strategy of a layered engagement. Uh, why am I doing that? Why am I bringing China also in? It's important to understand how economic incentives, geography, external competition intersect to perpetuate this instability in Myanmar. Now, how does China do it? China actually gives arms and weapons and aid to all these EAOs also. Besides giving arms, weapons, and aid to the government of Myanmar and the Tatmadaw, that is the Myanmar army, they also give arms, weapons, and aid to the ethnic armed organizations within Myanmar. And as a result, are able to manipulate both sides. And, during one of my visits to Myanmar, I was in Naypyidaw in 2017, when the Home Minister of Myanmar actually came up to me. I was in the uniform of a three-star general, and he said, "General, we have a common enemy, China. We are extremely suspicious of them." So here was the Home Minister of a country actually articulating his feelings about China and telling me that China doesn't play the right role in both the countries. And that is the strategy of China's layered engagement, an ability to interact at all levels with all groups in a particular area. And that's how China, as you notice, never loses in any kind of issue. Whether Myanmar has a coup or doesn't have a coup, whether one particular group gains or loses, China has helped out all sides. It's important to understand, like I said, how economic incentives, geography, external competition intersect to perpetuate this instability in Myanmar. The vulnerability of India's connectivity initiatives, and I'll be talking about the Kaladhan multimodal transport project also, underscores our strategic straits. Myanmar is an extremely important country for us, but entirely a border that is unfenced. We don't have too many troops on the Myanmar border. Assam Rifles, which is supposed to guard Myanmar border, has 45 units completely in total, out of which 23 or 24 units of the Assam Rifles are involved in insurgency. Out of these 24 units, 3 units are in Kashmir. So you have 21 units in the northeast in insurgency or countering insurgency. You have 3 units in Kashmir, and you have 21 units along the Myanmar uh, India international border. Now, the Myanmar international border is about 1,643 kilometers long. Having 21 units of 4 companies up, uh, there is no space actually. There are a lot of open areas, and that's the reason why there are often gaps. So let me start with the geography, the conflict, and the logic of spillover. So this is the let me go to the this is the map of India and Myanmar. As you can see, the border and how the Myanmar border is along the black line that goes there. On the top in the north is the Arunachal border with Myanmar and the Kachin state. Then you come south of that, you come to the Nagaland border. South of that, you come to the Manipur border, and south of that, you come to the Mizoram border, which borders the Chin state. Now, the Mizos are also Chins. They are the Zo Mi people. So the Mizo and the Chins belong to the same tribal affiliation. And surprisingly, if you go further north, Manipur also is linked up there. The Kukis, who are called Kukis in Manipur, are also Zomi people and also Chins. So they are related to. Can you see the border? Can you see this map?
General Shokin, your slides are not moving.
They
Admin,
haven't
can you
moved.
see if there is something can be done to move the slides? I think you have to move each slide.
I have moved this.
Somehow it's not moving.
No, we haven't seen it.
No. It's just the first slide that is coming,
What a pity.
and that's being highlighted.
I spent so much time making these slides.
Uh, why don't you send your PowerPoint to me quickly,
I can do that.
and I will ask the admin. Just
Yeah, let me.
do on WhatsApp.
Got it. Got it.
Oh, yeah, it's moving now. It's moving now. Yeah, so you don't
It's
have to
moving.
do it. Yes, we can see
Yeah.
it now.
Okay, so this is the border uh, that I was talking about. You see, right on the north, you see the Kachin state in Myanmar, and you see Arunachal on the left. So Arunachal is the northernmost state of India with the Myanmar border. South of that is the Nagaland state, where the Kachin state and the Chinwin River still links. South of that is Manipur, where now you see the Chin state linking up with Manipur, and south of that is Mizoram. So the Chin state links up to the Mizoram state and part of the Manipur state, and the Sagaing region and the Kachin state link up to Nagaland and Arunachal Pradesh. Now, as I said, the Chins are the Zomi people, the Mizos are the Zomi people, and the Kukis in Manipur are also the Zomi people. So they all belong to one tribe. The Chin National Army or the Chin National Front, two groups, are at perpetual war with the Myanmar Army or the Tatmadaw. This automatically means that inside Myanmar, the NSCN IM, which has its bases inside Myanmar, and the NSCN Kaplang group, Kaplang died and his nephew took over, also in Myanmar are supporting the Tatmadaw. So there is a fight inside Myanmar between the CNF and the CNA, and that fight has come inside India. So Manipur and Mizoram are actually also grounds where this fight is continuing. The Myanmar internecine war is also continuing inside this. So this is the geography of Myanmar, and the logic of the spillover of the battle that we are having, that we had first between the Kukis and the Meiteis, then we had at times the Mizos and the Meiteis, and now you are having inside Manipur a problem between the Kukis and the Tangkhuls, who are a part of the NSCN IM group, which means perpetual war, which means perpetual problems, which means perpetual security issues. And the spillover of the problems that are happening in Manipur or happening in Myanmar are also affecting us and will continue to affect us unless we are able to bring peace in Myanmar, which seems very difficult for us. And here, the role of China is that China plays an honest broker with both these groups, with the EOs, that is the CNA, CNF, with the Kachin State Army, with the Tatmadaw. China supports all of them. And as a result of which, this is the problem that we have. That China doesn't give us, is inimical to us. It manipulates these groups, continuously causing problems, continuously ensuring that the Indian state is deploying more and more forces in the Northeast. And we remain in perpetual problems, whereas China is able to manipulate it with very little. So the India-Myanmar border, as you can see on this, has long resisted the conventional logic of statecraft. Rather than functioning as a clearly demarcated boundary separating two sovereign political states, it exists as a fluid frontier shaped by terrain, ethnicity, and the uneven reach of state authority. As I said, it's 1,600 kilometers, 1,643 kilometers long, and it connects the Indian states of Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Manipur, and Mizoram with Myanmar's Kachin state, as you can see, Sagaing region, Chin, and the Rakhine regions. In these borderlines, geography and society conspire to undermine the rigidity of political boundaries. So, political boundaries are meaningless here, mainly because tribes occupy both sides of the Indian Indo border region, and as a result of it, it's a major problem. Now, the terrain is mountainous. It's dense forests. Uh, it limits the state penetration. Assam Rifles takes almost 16 to 20 days sometimes walking across because there are no roads to their posts. Uh, and on both sides, there are shared identities, shared ethnic identities, as I explained to you. The Naga, the Kuki, the Chins, the Mizos share the ethnic identity on both sides, facilitate this movement across borders that predate the modern state system. Now, it's not something that was created now. You're aware that the country of Myanmar or Burma, as it was under the British rule. And the British ruled Burma and Northeast and the rest of India through Calcutta. This was one region. And during that time, you also found a lot of movement of people, a lot of settling of people all over the place. And as a result of which, when these two states became independent states, uh, large lots of population got stuck on both sides. This geographical reality has profound implications for security and governance. Borders that are difficult to police, socially porous, inevitably become conduits for both illicit and uh, illegal flows of trade, migration, insurgency, and narcotics. A huge amount of narcotics that is flowing through this place. Using the same corridors, that means the same corridors that maybe legal trade is coming through are also being used by illegal trade. And there are very few places where we can actually stop them from. And these corridors are indistinguishable from each other, as I explained, because of the terrain. In such an environment, instability doesn't remain confined to national borders. Burma is in an unstable condition, but that instability in Burma has created a problem for us and is creating this instability in India. It travels along the pathways created by geography and human networks. Myanmar's internal conflict cannot be understood as a contained phenomenon. Uh, it's not contained. This entire phenomenon is not contained. It moves out towards India, and that creates a problem inside India. And it is structurally linked to the dynamics of India's northeast. That's the main issue that one must understand is that the dynamics of Myanmar also affect the dynamics of India's northeast. And this fight, this internecine tribal fight that is there inside Manipur, inside Nagaland, inside Arunachal, inside Assam, is also due to the fight that continues within these tribes in Myanmar. As you've noticed, central authority weakens, state institutions become fragmented, non-state actors expand their territorial and economic reach. What has emerged is not merely a civil war inside Myanmar, but it's a complex, resilient conflict economy. For India, this transformation has altered the character of its northeastern frontier, turning the space where internal security intersects with regional geopolitics and transnational economic networks. Now, let's just talk about the political economy and the conflict economies. The concept of a conflict economy uh, is a very different thing. So, Myanmar's conflict economy is war as an economic system. Can you see this?
Uh, your
Can
slides
you
are
see my
again
slide?
not moving. If you can try to do it again. It's stuck at 7. Now we can see
Yes.
it's moving. Yeah, now we can
You
see.
can see it now?
Yes.
Okay, now the conflict economy. Let me just talk of the conflict economy. Yeah. War is a conflict economy. I've spoken about the ethnic armed organizations, their militias. I've spoken about the resource-driven control, and I've spoken about the decentralized revenue streams. Let me just sort of re-push this across. The concept of a conflict economy is you need to understand Myanmar's trajectory. In this system, violence is not simply a means to a political end, but it's also embedded within the economic structures that generate this profit and sustained armed actors. Those armed actors like Van Dyke and those Ukrainians that came in through Mizoram, went into Myanmar, were part of these ethnic armed organizations. What becomes, in effect, a mode of production, war. Armed groups derive revenue from activities that flourish in conditions of instability, uh, including resource extraction, narcotics publication, production, informal taxation. And these economic incentives create very powerful incentives for peace because you can't push these people into peace anymore. The reason is that the resource comes only from war. So that's why it's called the conflict economy. The cessation of any conflict that might take place in Myanmar will threaten the financial interests of those who benefit from it. That's something we need to understand. Myanmar exemplifies this dynamic with striking clarity. Uh, Ethnic armed organizations, militias, elements within the state have all become participants in this decentralized war economy. Ambassador Bhatia would agree that the Tatmadaw is actually also an actor in this. They are also gaining a lot of money here. They also have their own organizations that pay them money. And because of this decentralized thing, they have often decentralized the authority of major areas in along the northeastern border to various groups. And these groups fight amongst each other, and that fight comes inside India. And that tribal memory of continued tribal battles is what is creating this instability inside India and, of course, inside Myanmar. And our ability to change this is extremely limited. Their ability to generate independent revenue streams allows them to maintain autonomy from central authority and to sustain prolonged conflict. Because who's losing here? Everyone's making money. The Tatmadaw is making money. The Myanmar government is making money. These ethnic armed organizations are making money. And there's continued violence, there's continued tribal war there. Importantly, Because of this particular thing, the conflict economies rarely remain confined to the national borders, and that is why it is affecting our northeast. They expand outward, exploiting porous frontiers, regional demand. In Myanmar's case, the proximity of India's northeast creates a natural extension of these networks. The same routes that facilitate cross-border trade and social interaction also enable movement of insurgents, weapons, narcotics. The boundary between internal and external uh, security have become blurred, and local conflicts have acquired transnational dimensions, as I explained to you. Uh, right down, you can see the issue of decentralized revenue streams. That is the issue where I say that these are the problems that are there. Now, let me talk about the fragmented. Uh, I don't think this will come. Now it should come. Has it come now, this map?
Yes.
Okay. This map shows you the trafficking routes. As you can see, from Myanmar, come southward, the, the, the routes from Manipur go to the Kachar area of Assam, and then go straight on to Bhutan or maybe across to Nepal in West Bengal. And these routes are actually the trafficking routes that are used to traffic narcotics. As the DG Assam Rifles had placed, since we had an idea of these routes, we placed a lot of checkpoints here. We placed a lot of places where we could, there were scanners, big vehicle scanners were placed here. But one thing I ought to mention here, since it is that we were given no help from the political actors in the northeastern states. The reason why we were not, I was particularly not given any kind of help by the chief minister, who was the chief minister at that time. When I told him, look, I want to place these large vehicle scanners here to prevent people from taking drugs, he would not give me the space because obviously his party or he or his group of people were profiting from this narcotics movement of narcotics. So the fragmentation and rise of hybrid armed actors, the post-school landscape, as Ambassador Bhatia would probably tell you, is characterized by a fragmentation and a proliferation of armed actors exercising various degrees of territorial control. Organizations like the Kachin Independence Army, the United VA State Army, the Karen National Union have evolved into hybrid entities that combine military capability with governance functions. Because the Tatmadaw has no control in these areas, and as a result of which, they have given up all their control to these people. In areas under their control, these groups often operate administrative systems, collecting taxes, regulate economic activity, effectively functioning as de facto states. And that's the major problem in Myanmar, is that there is no central authority. And that affects us. Because who do we talk to? Do we talk to the United Wa Army? Do we talk to the Three Brothers Alliance? Do we talk to the Tatmadaw? Do we talk to the Burmese or the Myanmar State Authority? I'm certain Ambassador would further enlighten us that who did you talk to? Or were we talking to so many more people? These economic assets are not only sustain operational capacity of these armed groups, but also reinforce their political legitimacy within the local populations. The local population is going to listen to one authority. And if the EAO's political authority is there and they have an armed group and they're imposing taxation and they're ensuring peace, then EAO is the government you listen to. In many cases, governance is inseparable from economic control, as an access to resources becomes the basis of authority. So I talked about Tatmadaw, or the Burmese army, has historically played a central role in shaping this political economy through a combination of coercion, cooperation, selective tolerance. It has managed a system of controlled instability. I want you to, understand this phrase, this controlled instability. Uh, it allows certain illicit activities to persist while maintaining overarching authority. But after 2021, after the coup, this regulatory framework which was imposed by the Burmese army, that has weakened. and the Tatmada's ability has diminished to impose order, to increase competition amongst the armed actors, further entrenching this fragmentation that has taken place in Burma. These localized systems of control actually have complicated all our efforts. Who do we talk to? And that's an issue that everyone must understand. Narcotics, networks, narco insurgency, nexus. This Burma, as you know, is a part of the Golden Triangle. It remains one of the world's major producers of meth, that is methamphetamine and heroin. The shift towards synthetic drugs, particularly methamphetamine tablets, has expanded the scale and the flexibility of production, enabling rapid adaptation to market conditions. Let me show you this on a slide. Yeah. Can you see this? No. Now you can see it, right?
Yes.
Okay. So these are the places where the Golden Triangle is there. Myanmar, Laos, Thailand. North of where you see Myanmar is the Shan state. And this is the movement of the narcotics northwards towards China, eastwards, westwards towards India, southward toward Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam. And these are the opium, in blue is the opium uh, survey area. So this is an interesting map because no matter what you try and do to stop these things, and I remember when the conflict in Manipur had gained a lot of problems. Dr. Adityanji and me were talking about this, and I did mention. I said, look, not much is grown in India. It's all grown in Myanmar, and it is brought into India. And blaming the cookies for this is incorrect because it's actually all grown there and pushed inside here. So these are the main issues that one has to understand about the flexibility of production, the enabling of rapid adaptation to changing market conditions. The implications of this narco economy extends far beyond Myanmar's borders. Trafficking routes move westward into India, where the states like Mizoram and Manipur. Let me show you. Yeah. So the same old map. Let me come back to it again. Now you can see now that last map, and now when you correlate these two maps, you realize the social consequences of this movement of narcotics. It is severe, manifesting in rising addiction rates, public health challenges, and proliferation of criminal networks. So the same gangs that are carrying these drugs are also carrying a whole lot of other criminal issues: gun running, flesh trade, uh, you know, animals. It could be a certain exquisite kind of animals, different kinds of situations. All these are actually smuggled inside India. Cheap Chinese goods. All these areas are, filled with uh, illegal trade. So the narcotics trade here, the surprising thing is that the narcotics trade here intersects with the insurgency. So the Assam Rifles is actually spending time fighting the insurgency, stopping the narcotics trade, stop holding the border, fighting the local political problems, dealing with local internal security issues, and all it has with it is 45 units. It is physically impossible for a small force like the Assam Rifle, with overall strength is around 66 to 70,000 soldiers, to be able to deal with so many different issues and so many different political issues. And the transnational nature of the system further complicates the efforts at this control. Let me give you an idea of this. You can see this
Yes.
triangle.
Yes.
So I've expanded the golden triangle for you. I've given you an idea of where the meth and heroin productions are. I've shown you where the Northeast as a hub is, and I've shown you that all these issues also finance our insurgencies. So if you're wondering where this money is coming or going from, this is the issue here. That this expansion of the Golden Triangle westwards towards India, the meth and heroin production, that and the movement of these groups here, the Northeast is the hub from where a lot of narcotics is now moving through, and the all this is financing the insurgencies and the various groups. And the result is a deeply embedded regional economy that cannot be addressed through unilateral measures. That means India can't just do it. We need Myanmar's help. And that is why I always say that Myanmar is an extremely important country for us. And we don't understand it because somewhere along the line, I feel Indians are obsessed with Pakistan. And we often seem to forget the kind of danger that Myanmar actually gives. The problems instability in Myanmar is doing for us. It's a huge problem, and it's going to be a huge problem for us subsequently. This is the cultivation density of various, as you can see, uh, the main cultivation is where the axis of the Golden Triangle is. That is towards the east, and the main movement is towards the west. Now, let me just talk about the geopolitics and Kaladan. And I spoke to you about China's layered engagement. I'll speak to you about the vulnerability of our infrastructure. I'll speak to you about the passes through the conflict zones and the strategic connectivity project. So China's engagement with Myanmar, as I told you before, reflects a sophisticated and pragmatic approach to regional geopolitics. There is no kind of idealism with China. She's extremely pragmatic in everything that China does. Rather than aligning exclusively with the central government, Beijing has cultivated relationships with a range of actors, including the EAOs such as the United Vast State Army. This strategy of layered engagement allows China to maintain influence regardless of the shifts of influence in Myanmar's internal political situation. Infrastructure development plays a central role in this. Under the Belt and Road Initiative, China has invested its projects designed to connect its southwestern provinces to the Indian Ocean. These initiatives actually not only enhance economic connectivity, but also serve as strategic objectives. China's involvement in Myanmar's border regions extends beyond formal infrastructure projects. Economic linkages, trade networks, supply of precursor material for narcotics embed China in the broader conflict economy. Okay. And it creates a complex dynamic in which China simultaneously seeks stability for its investments while retaining leverage derived from its connections in various actors. Now let me try and get you. Yeah. Now we will talk about this later. So to we India wanted to connect to the Southeast Asian states, and Burma or Myanmar uh, was the land bridge to our connecting the Southeast Asian states. We we were bringing the railway, and we are still trying to bring the railway to Manipur, from where Manipur would be the trade hub, and from Manipur our trade would go via land to the Southeast Asian states. But two things happened. One, the state of Manipur itself within went through a huge internal upsurge with the problem between the Kukis and the Maitis. The road from Imphal to Tamu or Imphal to More uh, became blocked. Why? Because the Kukis dominate a sizable part of this road, and therefore no trade could pass through this. An attempt to make a road through the Churachandpur area also became blocked for the same reason. So the entire trade planning that India had done by bringing the railway to Manipur or to Imphal and to move this trade further to Myanmar became blocked because of this problem. This problem continues. The Maitis and the Cookies have not yet linked up with each other. They're still fighting, and now the Cookies have started to fight with the Tanghuls, who will who are taking this enmity that they have over the last 100 years into this particular area also. So our effort to enhance connectivity is a major problem. And let me show you our effort to enhance connectivity. I'm sure the ambassador would has already seen this particular thing, but let me try and get it to you. This is the Now, what did India do? India's efforts to enhance our connectivity are epitomized by what we call the Koladhan Multimodal Transport Project, Transport Project. The idea was to link Calcutta, Kolkata, with Myanmar via the Sitwe post, right down south. You see Sitwe written there, and the inland waterways. The project represented a critical component of India's Act East policy. By providing an alternative route to the northeast, it seeks to reduce the dependence on what we call the Siliguri corridor and to integrate the region more closely with broader economic networks. Yet, that very geography that makes the Kaladan project strategically valuable also actually renders it extremely vulnerable. Uh, the corridor passes through the Rakhine area, the Chin states, areas that are marked by perpetual conflict. And the presence of insurgent groups and criminal networks actually create an environment in which infrastructure is inherently exposed. So this entire project of moving trade through to the port of Sitwe is a no-go at the present moment because of the states through which it goes through. Without sustained efforts to ensure stability along this route, the project risks another liability rather than an asset. Let me give you another idea of this. Can you see this?
Yes.
So this actually makes it a little clearer. You can see Kolkata, you can see that, and then moving the things along the river, the Bay of Bengal, we reach the port of Sitwe. Now, you can see Aizol on the north, right on the north, and down there, Long Tai, Zoranki, Pelmpat, and then finally onto Myanmar into the port of Sitwe. This was our plan, that we skip the Siliguri corridor, move our goods to Sitwe, and from there move up to north. As also, our trade could take place through Myanmar like this. But because Sitwe is located in the Rakhine state, which is in perpetual conflict, the Rakhines are the Rohingyas, and the Chins are perpetually fighting, and now the Rohingyas have rebelled, and it's a muddle, and we are not able to sort this. So this vulnerability is accentuated by the comparison with China's infrastructure. When you compare it with China's infrastructure initiatives, which benefit from a deeper integration with local power structures. So exactly what I was saying is that what China has done is that they linked up with various EAOs, which we had not done, and signed agreement with separate EOs. And those EOs have now allowed this movement of Chinese goods. India's challenge is not only just to build infrastructure, but also to embed it within a stable and supportive political environment, which is not happening because not only are we fighting inside our Indian northeast, there are also problems in Myanmar, on the borderlands of Myanmar. So India's northeast, is it a frontier or a fault line? The cumulative effect of the dynamics is to transfer India's northeast into space where domestic and external challenges converge. The insurgent groups continue to exploit cross-border initiatives. Narcotic trafficking reinforces criminal networks. Refugee flows add to administrative pressures. And as I said, if Mizoram is not going to stop the refugees from the Chin state coming in, we are in a problem because when Mizoram signed this accord with us in 1986, this was one of the issues that we will give access or will allow access to the Chins in Myanmar, which is holding our hand. In this context, Northeast cannot be understood as a peripheral region. I always say that, we always keep saying Northeast is in the periphery of our country. It is an integral component of a larger conflict. The distinction, that spans national boundaries. The distinction between internal and external security becomes extremely tenuous. And the crisis today is extremely difficult to understand this situation. We must look beyond our immediate tactical disruptions and recognize the fluid frontier that has dissolved the buffer between domestic stability and regional anarchy. So I will end here and wait for your questions. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much indeed, Lieutenant General Shokin Chauhan, for a very scholarly, very detailed, very informative lecture on the geopolitical impacts of the conflict economy in this, if I may say, failed state of Myanmar. Now we are ready for Ambassador Rajiv Bhatia's expert comments because he was India's ambassador to Myanmar and has, personal relationship with some of the political leaders and also. Ambassador Saab, the floor is yours. Kindly go ahead with your comments.
Thank you very much, Dr. Adityanji, and thank you very much, General Chauhan. I would like to say that this is the most insightful, candid, and comprehensive presentation I've heard in a very long time. And had I heard this 20 years back when I was sent out as ambassador to Myanmar, I might have done better in that role. You have studied this as a practitioner, as a policymaker, and now as a scholar. And I'm really keen not merely to congratulate you, but also Dr. Adityanji for discovering you and inviting you to speak on this extremely complex and sensitive subject. And you have done remarkably well, exceptionally well. And so my congratulations to you. And
Thank you.
I would like to say that there is hardly anything I can think of that I would disagree with you. I made copious notes of your lecture, and I very much will make sure that your PowerPoint and your YouTube presentation reaches out to the authorities concerned and also to a large group of our Myanmar experts, of which I am a member, and I help them. Now, I think the central point remains that there is a serious breakdown of statecraft or state machinery in Myanmar. Essentially a national problem, a local problem, but it generates massive external consequences of which India becomes a victim. At the same time, I think we also have to be candid and frank to recognize that there are problems on our side of the border as well. And I think you have, within your limits, presented and referred to them again and again in a very restrained manner. So when you find the conjunction of a highly fractured and unstable situation on one side, that is in Myanmar, and all kinds of ethnic complexities and political selfishness, and in fact, weak statecraft as well, and then inability of often central authorities to give the highest possible importance to the peripheral areas, it becomes obviously a very deadly mix. Now here, I would like to take a couple of minutes to focus on the situation in Myanmar, because very often it's very difficult to appreciate as to what is happening there. This is this crisis that you referred, which began this phase in 2021, is of course not new. Here is a country which the scholars agree has not been able to define its nationhood. It is claimed that the nation state building in Myanmar was never completed either before the British Raj or during the British Raj or after the British Raj. 75 years of independence, and they still are trying to define themselves whether they are Burma, whether they are Myanmar, whether they are a democracy, whether they are a federal state, and so on. And in the meantime, obviously, they remain under the clutches of the military. So fundamentally, three issues that come up. One, what should be the relationship between the military and the elected representatives of the people? From time to time, Myanmar has given different answers. They tried full democracy in the first decade. Then they tried military rule in the subsequent decades. Then military leaders became a bit more enlightened. They went for limited democracy in the past decade. Then they again moved forward to complete military rule for the past 5 years. And now, once again, they have introduced limited democracy. So there is this fundamental issue. The second basic issue is about the nature of distribution of power between the central government and the autonomous regions and states of the country. And there, again, various formulae have been tried from the time of the father of the nation, Aung San, right till now, and there's no lasting solution available. And on top of that, the third issue is the problems within the majority community, which is called the Bamar or Burman community. So in other words, there is serious issue not just between the Burmans and the non-Burmans, but there are difficulties within the Burman community or the Bamar community, and we are seeing this in terms of the various PPFs, the units which are supported by Bamar civil society and Bamar political parties, also fighting against Tatmadaw, which is largely Bamar itself. So Myanmar has been in a mess, and I think people of Myanmar know it because they are the ones who have been suffering from it. Now, from there, let me just make one remark, which is that you have outlined the whole scope of the conflict economy and its activities. I just want to add one more, although that is not active on our border. It is very active and very concerning, and it is on the Thai-Myanmar border. And this is the great phenomenon of IT scams. They have really mastered the art of employing thousands of IT people, many of them from India, and they are sitting there in big camps, often under compulsion, and they are given quotas, daily, weekly quotas, to go and scam people. And where are these people getting scammed? In India, in Southeast Asia, and in as far regions as Latin America and the US as well. And there's absolutely no action that is being taken by the regional governments, which is really quite embarrassing and quite shameful. We are reading here, sitting in Noida, almost every week, real stories of retired people losing lakhs of rupees, stolen in effect by the scam masters of Southeast Asia, often being run and led by Chinese mafia. But I would not exclude the Indochina elements here as well. So just to complete the story, we are dealing with trafficking, smuggling, illegal trade. You pointed out the business of flesh, the animals trade, and lot of crime of other kind. And therefore, the issue that arises is as to how to attack the root problem, which is the Myanmar problem? And is there a chance of its resolution in the foreseeable future? 2 points that can be made. One, internally, the new president, who is the old commander-in-chief, and you probably know him, you would have met
Yes,
him.
I know him. Yes,
Yes. Indeed, General Min Aung Hlaing.
Yes, Min Aung Hlaing.
He has a certain approach, he has a certain background, but as president, he delivered a very important speech before the parliament just a few days back. And as you expect a president to say, he said, there are diverse perceptions in the country because of our different backgrounds. But once again, the time has come for a dialogue and conversation and problem solving, because we all are the sisters and brothers of the same land. The problem is that the opposition, the resistance, the ethnic armed groups, they are probably not yet willing to trust the new government, to trust the new leader. And therefore, until and unless Burmese themselves begin some kind of a dialogue, the rest of the world may find it very difficult to secure anything. And my last point essentially on this thing is, can we place some hope on the international community? Can we hope that they will help Myanmar to resolve its problems so that the consequences then can begin to be addressed and mitigated? And here also, I wish I could offer a very promising scenario.
Right.
But the fact is that UN has outsourced this task to ASEAN. And ASEAN is actually divided. It has not one Myanmar policy, but several Myanmar policies. And we have to particularly notice what the immediate neighbors such as Thailand and Laos are doing. I agree with most of what you said about China. Chinese footprint has expanded significantly in the past 5 years. And I think the more we study, the more we realize that for India, there are really only two options. Either you compete with them with due thought, with due resources, with due investment, or perhaps you explore the possibility of talking with them if in the overall framework of India-China relationship, there is a possibility of securing some kind of understanding on the Myanmar front. At the end, what I would like to say, because I've already taken about 7, 8, 9 minutes, and I really will have to leave in a short while as well because something urgent is coming up. What I would like to say is to mark my agreement that India's policymakers, media, business and industry, think tanks, certainly former generals like you and strategists, they need to invest much more in studying Myanmar and in coming up with solid ideas, practical ideas as to how India's national interests can be better protected. I'm sure there are ways and means, there are a lot of ideas among the intellectual community, but they all need to be brought into a kind of a convergent view so that the problems that you have outlined today beautifully and brilliantly could begin to be addressed. I thank you very much, Dr. Adityanji.
Thank you very much indeed to Ambassador Rajiv Bhatia. Equally brilliant commentary on Lieutenant General Shokin Chauhan's presentation lecture. So we were very fortunate to have these two giants in their respective fields, giving minute observations and making suggestions to us for the future. Before I go on to questions, because we are running short of time, I will take the prerogative as the chair to make a few comments of my own, and it is for our audience members. Number one is that at the end of this, I will request General Shokin Chauhan to circulate his PowerPoint so that people who had difficulty, correlating his talk with the maps have access to those maps, and I don't think that would be a problem. So that is to reassure our audience members. Number two is that people need to realize that the central government in Myanmar controls only 20% of the land, and that's a sad reality. Number two is that Indian civil society, Indian policy establishment, and the external pressure on Indian government, successive governments, has focused on, induced a guilt feeling that we need to be engaging with true democratic leaders in Myanmar. And let me be very blunt about it. Look at the neighboring states in so-called Indochina region or ASEAN region. Thailand is not a true democracy. It's a struggling democracy with every 6 months new elections being ordered, the dominant political party being de-recognized by the establishment. You look at Cambodia, how elections are managed in Cambodia. You look at Vietnam, it is a party-controlled state with semblance of sham elections. So for India to put all eggs into one basket of so-called democratic leaders, I think has been very, very short-sighted. We should have started engaging with the military junta from 1990s onwards. We have wasted a lot of time, and that has been one of the problems, that we are not pragmatic enough, and we can be induced to feel guilty by the Western pressures that we are not quote unquote true democracy, or if we are not engaging with democratic leaders in that particular country. So that is definitely an issue. The mindset has to change in India's policy establishment. We did talk about at length the external influence of China, which I don't deny. It is there. But let me be very explicit about that. There are external influences coming from secret service agencies from other nations and superpowers as well. And Lieutenant General Shokin Chauhan had alluded to it about arrest of certain people, 6 Ukrainian, 1 Slovenian, and this character, Matthew Van Dyke, whose shady connections with agencies is very well known because he appears in every conflict zone, and the country he belongs to, that government becomes very active in extracting him out of those conflict zones if anything goes south. So it's not just Chinese influence, but it is external influence of other countries as well, and we need to be aware of that. And lastly, I would say the ethnic problem. So the Chief Minister of Mizoram, Lal Duoma, visited United States in September of 2024. And in an open forum in state of Maryland, he made a statement which raised eyebrows in India quite a lot. He said, "We are Kuki Zo people. We are in India, we are in Myanmar, we are in Bangladesh. We cannot fight 3 countries at the same time," because there was a demand from the audience as to why Mizoram or Kuki-Zo people can make one nation, identifying everything. So what he said was that we cannot fight 3 countries, so we have to make peace with India. What he was trying to say that we have to work that under the framework of Indian Constitution, and that was clarified later on. But the significance of that happening in Maryland is that it is the religion and the establishment of the country in which that meeting was held proudly says that we are a Judeo-Christian nation and we will spread Judeo-Christianity to all the regions of the world. And some of the influences there are from that perspective. So let's be aware of those influences as well. I thought that I will bring those angles because this makes it a very complex cauldron of geopolitical issues, not just Chinese issues. So we get impacted in India. India is northeast because of that, but I think there is a need for very objective scholarly approach to study this problem. And I am very, very thankful to General Shokin Chauhan that he, in a very, very, distinguished, objective, scholarly manner, highlighted each and every problem without, inciting emotions and things like that. And we need more of this. So hopefully we will continue to work on that, and especially Ambassador Rajesh Bhatia's work in the Myanmar group, because Myanmar cannot be left aside. As far as India's future security is concerned, Myanmar cannot be ignored. So we have more work to do. And I see there are a lot of questions, but I think we have had a very good discussion between the two speakers. So most of the questions are basically observations, so I would not raise them. My heartful thanks to Lieutenant General Shokin Chauhan and Ambassador Rajiv Bhatia. My thanks to our audience members. It is a dense topic, and not every Tom, Dick, and Harry can understand what is going on and are interested in minutiae of this problems of India's Northeast region. So thanks to our all audience members who showed interest and respect in attending the lecture. And my thanks to Team CSA, Mr. Rajiv Verma and Mr. Ripudaman Pachori, who work on the background, never show their face, and make sure that I am able to conduct these kind of sessions. So thanks to them. And my assurance to our audience member stays there that we will circulate the PowerPoint of General Shokin Chauhan so people can again, watch the YouTube recording of the video along with the PowerPoint they have. Thank you very much indeed. I am really, really
Thank you.
very
Thank you.
grateful to our both guests.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful.